Welcome back, everyone. 13 after the hour, and time for us to go behind the headlines, where we're continuing to take our look back at 2014. And today, we're going to take a look at the top 5 effed up things cops did to tokers in 2014. As we continue to tear down this Berlin Wall of marijuana prohibition, we keep finding more information about how cops have been abusing the rights of marijuana consumers in their prosecution of the drug war. So here are 5 instances where cops did some pretty messed up things. Number 5, Nebraska cops complain about Colorado weed crossing the border. Sheriff Adam Hayward is the sheriff of Dual County, Nebraska, a small rural county near Colorado, who said, quote, "We have had a significant increase in the amount of cases and incidences with marijuana coming across from Colorado. 1 in every 5 cars, we are now finding something in there. We are paying for them to be housed. We're paying for them to be fed. We're paying for their medical expenses, which a lot of them do have. And then a lot of them, even though they have money to buy drugs, they don't have money to pay for an attorney. Therefore, the county has to pay for the public defender." End quote. So, cops in Nebraska are complaining because they want to prohibit marijuana. But the state next to them, Colorado, is profiting from legal marijuana that makes its way across the border, threatening Nebraska's prohibition. Yet when tribal cops from the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota want to prohibit alcohol, the state next to them, Nebraska, is profiting from 4 beer stores selling 10,000 cans of beer per day in the border town of White Clay, Nebraska, population 10. In other words, Colorado's bad for enabling Nebraska potheads, but Nebraska's not for enabling South Dakota reservation alcoholics? Number 4, one Seattle cop wrote 4 out of 5 public toking tickets. In August, Seattle Police Chief Kathleen O'Toole reassigned a police officer who reports showed had written almost 4 out of 5 of the 83 citations for public pot use since January. The biannual report on marijuana enforcement also showed that 36% of public toking tickets were written to African Americans, who only make up 8% of the Seattle population. Chief O'Toole writes, quote, "In some instances, the officer added notes to the tickets. Some notes requested the attention of City Attorney Peter Holmes and were addressed to Petey Holmes. In another instance, the officer indicated that he flipped a coin when contemplating which subject to cite. In another note, the officer refers to Washington's voter-enacted changes to marijuana laws as, quote, silly," end quote. Number 3, an Illinois cop admits to smearing vehicles with weed for future canine stops. Of course, the use of drug dogs, or canine officers, to smell illegal contraband has long been a tool in the cops' arsenal to bypass the protections of the Fourth Amendment and search citizens' cars at roadside traffic stops. In May, this damning testimony from an Illinois police officer detailed how some cops abuse that power to conduct policing for profit. Officer Michael Reichert, in a pretrial deposition in Collinsville, Illinois, said, quote, "We'd go to a hotel or grocery store parking lots, throw drugs on U-Haul trucks, underneath big trucks and 18-wheelers and so forth," acknowledging that it was sometimes done without the vehicle owner's permission. And sometimes, he said, marijuana was wiped across a car door. He said the dogs can detect the smell, quote, "for a time," end quote. Have it. Number 2, DEA supplies secret tips to local drug cops. The program's called the DEA's Special Operations Division, or SOD, and a report from Reuters blew the lid off of the use of intelligence intercepts, wiretaps, informants, and a massive database of telephone records from federal investigations used for domestic policing. SOD comprises units from many agencies, including FBI, CIA, IRS, Homeland Security, and the National Security Agency, which was revealed by whistleblower Edward Snowden to be engaged in data mining and spying on U.S. citizens. That federal cops might help state and local cops catch drug criminals isn't the shocking part. There's nothing illegal or untoward about that. The shocking part of SOD's operations is something known as parallel construction. This is a technique SOD uses to instruct local cops once SOD has given them a tip, so all evidence of SOD's involvement is erased from the forthcoming trial. Think of it like money laundering, except with the investigatory process instead of illegal cash. And the number one effed up thing that cops did to marijuana consumers in 2014, prosecutors tried to blame Michael Brown's killing on marijuana wax. The killing of unarmed black teenager Michael Brown by white cop Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri, concluded with the grand jury declining to indict Wilson for any crime. Testimony released from the grand jury shows the prosecutors brought up Brown's marijuana use 44 times, referring to the 12 nanograms of active THC found in his bloodstream and implying that he was hallucinating and psychotic from using marijuana concentrate. The grand jury heard that 12 nanograms of THC, quote, could have potentially caused a loss in perception of space and time, and there was also the possibility that there could have been hallucinations, end quote. They were told that Brown had a conversation about marijuana wax before he died, and, quote, if one were to ingest that, would you be consuming a higher level of THC than you would if you were to have smoked or ingested the plant material, end quote. And the grand jury was introduced to experts who argued whether, quote, you cannot draw any conclusions that he was suffering or that he was experiencing hallucinations or having a psychotic break, end quote. Those are the top 5 most effed up things cops did to tokers in 2014. I had to restrict the list to just 5 in the interest of time. You'll be able to read this at hightimes.com and my blog, radicalruss.com, coming up shortly.